Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be talking about the new Robbery DLC available in Battlefield Hardline. It came out yesterday. It's the second DLC for Battlefield Hardline, and it's packed full of new features. Not to mention it gives the basic game a lot of free upgrades like new weapons and new gadgets that you don't even need to buy the DLC to acquire. The gun I'm using here, the M1 Carbine, is one of those new free weapons that's going to be available to anyone, and it's also a universal class weapon. Now let's go through some of the features that are available in the DLC, and then I'll talk about some of the free features that have been added to the base game. First and foremost, there are 4 new maps: the Docks, Breakpoint, Precinct 7, and then Museum, which is the map that you're watching right now. Museum is probably my favorite, not necessarily for the gameplay or the layout, but because it is just such a cool looking map to play on. You have this incredibly detailed museum with just great reproductions of dinosaur skeletons, there's a planetarium, and there's even voice acting when you go past some of the exhibits that tell you about them. There's also a lot of really cool Easter eggs that I don't want to spoil for you guys if you like exploring on your own. And of course you can destroy pretty much all of the awesome museum exhibits, including taking down some of the extremely large dinosaur skeletons, which will kill anyone standing beneath them. And it's also Infantry Exclusive. There's no vehicles whatsoever, so if you love the infantry combat in Battlefield, this is going to provide it to you, and you don't have to worry about any pesky vehicles ruining your good time. The map is huge. It can house 64 players, no problem. The unfortunate side about playing this on PC is that I couldn't even find any 64 player servers to test out this map on its full population. 48 players only. It was still fun there, but it did feel a little sparse at times. Now the other maps are also loaded with detail. I think Breakpoint is one of the other maps that flows extremely well. Then we have Precinct 7 and the Docks. I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay on Precinct 7 or the Docks, but the maps are just gorgeous. You can tell that a lot of time went into them. I think they're just a little bit too big and have a little bit too much going on, which is kind of crazy because they really modeled the interiors of a lot of the structures in the map. It just makes it too complex and complicated. So predicting your enemy's movements or where they're camping or hiding can be very difficult. So the gameplay as a result becomes more chaotic and a little bit less strategic. That being said, when the maps are scaled down for their TDM game modes, I can imagine that they would be a little bit more fun to play on. I didn't actually get to test this out because there was no TDM maps to play on PC. I hate to say it, but Hardline is really dead on PC, so most of this review is really going to apply to the console market. Then we also have a new game mode called Squad Heist, which is designed around the basic heist game mode, which I think is one of the better game modes in Hardline right now, but it's designed around smaller groups of players so that you can actually have some sort of competitive element to Hardline. Now let's talk about the new guns. This DLC adds 3 new assault rifles for the operator class. We get the MDC, which I think most people haven't heard of. The actual name of the weapon is the MDR, which stands for Micro Dynamic Rifle, and it's technically not even released yet, but it's supposedly coming out later this year, and it's a pretty cool looking bullpup design rifle. Then we also get the F2000, which comes with its standard custom F2000 optic at the start, and you can upgrade it with other red dot sights as you progress with the weapon. And then we also get the RPK for the operator class, which traditionally is classified as a light machine gun. It's just a little bit lighter in this case here and used more of as an assault rifle, which if you look at it in Battlefield 4, it's used in a very similar fashion, so I can see it sort of making the jump to the operator class in Hardline. Each class also gets the option to switch out their grenades with 2 throwing knives, which can be a one-shot kill, a silent takedown. They have a bit of travel time and they're hard to hit your opponents with, but it's definitely a fun little troll gadget to use. Pretty hard to sell the whole idea of switching out your grenades with throwing knives, but if you want to be that stealthy assassin, then this is the gadget for you. The operator also gets a gas grenade launcher, so you can imagine running gas grenade launcher with a gas mask and gas grenades. You can gas the heck out of anyone. Might be a little bit too gas spammy, but you can always put on a gas mask to try and counteract those gas grenades. They also get a passenger healing gadget, which I imagine being very useful in the Hotwire game mode. There's 4 new gun camos. Some of them look very Counter-Strike inspired, which I consider to be a good thing in Battlefield Hardline. I love sort of the more graffiti-esque gun camos, and I can't wait to unlock some of these guys. Now let's talk about the base game update. This is probably the coolest thing about this expansion or this patch for Battlefield Hardline. There's been a lot of free content added to the base game because they're basically still trying to compete with Battlefield 4, which is an incredibly feature-rich game, and it honestly hurts Hardline, especially on the PC side of things, where people are just not really willing to switch over from BF4 or the myriad of other shooters that they have available to them for Hardline, because it is just competing with so many feature-rich games. So they're trying to make up for it by adding a lot of free base game features. I don't know if it's enough or if it's too little too late, but if there was any time to basically try and revitalize Hardline on the PC, now would be it, because it is actually getting a lot of cool features. Let's talk about the free guns that have been added for everyone. We have the M1 carbine, which is actually pretty good in this game. I like it. Then we have the FN57 sidearm, which is available for everyone, another universal gun. We have the MP7, which is being treated as a universal gun, not just a mechanic exclusive. Then we have the FAMAS, which you can use for the operator class, the Sega 12 for the enforcer, and the M82416, which is basically a Barrett for the professional class. And this sniper rifle is badass. It's kind of bridging the gap between DMR and bolt action sniper rifle. I think it's a one-shot headshot at any range, yet it's a semi-automatic rifle. It's pretty crazy, and I like using it a lot. It's going to take a little bit of practice with it because you have such a small magazine, but a lot of fun to run with. And then we have the Scorpion, also known as the CZ3A1 from Battlefield 4 for the mechanic class, and that's a beastie little PDW as well. So not including the new DLC weapons, there's 7 guns available to everyone, which is pretty damn awesome. I mean, that's a big content update in general. That's the number of guns that you would expect to see in a DLC, say for Battlefield 4 in total, yet they're coming out in addition to the weapons that have been added to the DLC, and they're for everyone, whether or not you purchase the DLC. This is a freaking awesome move by Visceral, and I just love what DICE and Visceral are doing now with a lot of the free content that's coming out in both Battlefield 4 and Hardline. It's just a great thing for EA to do, to show appreciation for the community and say, hey, we're going to have a bunch of paid content coming out, but with that, we're also going to add free content for everyone. It's a great way to reinvigorate the community and bring players back who maybe haven't played the game in a while. I just love this new philosophy of how they're doing things with Battlefield, and I think it's a great way to move forward with all future titles. Now, there's also been a few balance changes. One of the probably more impactful ones when it comes to infantry firefight is the fact that the armored insert, available only to the mechanic class, has had its damage reduction changed to 33% instead of 50%, which allowed you to absorb a lot more damage in close quarter firefights and win a lot of firefights that otherwise you probably shouldn't have. We'll see if 33% is enough of a damage reduction to make it a bit more fair. And there's also been a bunch of weapon updates and balance tweaks and stuff like that with various guns, which you can check out in the patch notes. Overall, I think this is a great DLC, a significant step up from Criminal Activity, just with the fidelity of the artwork, the amount of content you're getting. It's really a great content patch, and if you ever were thinking about coming back to Hardline, now would be the time. It would be really great if we could see a bit of the PC community coming back to the game as well, since there are a significant amount of features now. My only criticism is that some of the maps are just a little bit too complicated, where certain capture points feel like they're entire maps within themselves, and this is cool that there's so much detail in some of the map design. It just over complexifies things and makes strategies or points of approach or ways to defend points almost impossible because there's just too many points of attack, and I think that kind of hurts strategic gameplay a little bit. It's still cool to play on these maps, like the docks. It's beautiful looking, it's just incredibly complicated. So anyway, that wraps it up for my initial impressions on the Robbery DLC for Battlefield Hardline. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.